Yes. Thank you very much, everyone. Welcome again. This now a regular Saturday discussion program, the Frontline show. As when I see today, now basically Saturday and October 8th, 2022. I just get 5 minutes after 1 p.m. Eastern US time, and that basically with the broadcast today from the East Coast of the United States, from Washington, D.C., where I have been at least since Wednesday at the Washington, D.C., from Illinois. So I'm happy to have this conversation. Please invite our usual audience, those of you we don't follow with discussion with regular audience, and invite more people into the conversation. We intend for continue, which we stopped last week, which was the conversation on the Bank of Sierra Leone, the Central Bank of Sierra Leone. And as you remember, we've been talking about a number of things, including the central bank crisis or the economic crisis, and more especially the use of the currency, the use of the Leone, with national currency, the Leone, the money what we get, how politicians then decide for use the currency market, the exchange market, the currency as a weapon in the war against opposition, against opponents in the country. We've been talking about the appointment of Kelfala Kalon 4 months after Wimada Bio take power. And that was, I think, 15th of August 2018. And the interview, the statement given by Kelfala Kalon regarding how we see the appointment and how we see the economic problem in the country. That from the very beginning, Kelfala Kalon even talks say, in things say the reason why make the Leone the loss in value, why make the exchange rate, the dollar and the dollar, the pounds and the euro, and even the Guinea franc, and all the neighboring countries, their money they go up past we own. Now because the politicians that we've been there before, the SLP become the APC politician, them under Neskroma and company them, Samura Kamara them, Kemosise them, all the APC politicians, then they don't thief the money from the central bank and keep her. And that been the cause where the Leone the loss in value. So in being believed say the opposition get money where they hide inside their house. So if they appoint them, you go work with the Anti-Corruption Commission and other state institutions and for make sure say then go after the politician that we've been on there before and the opposition, so that they go return the money. And one way it thinks that for make more foreign currency available on the street to the commercial banks and eventually with the street market, the black market, as we don't talk about last week. So in your own approach, the market economics, where he felt the more supply of foreign currencies or dollar specifically go make the Leone go up, because if more dollar there, then less Leone now will use for exchange rate. So we talk about the foolishness or the lack of sense in that kind of idea, that kind of thinking, to the extent that we mention how Parliament became complicit in the arrangement, because they approved Kelfala Kalon, they not scrutinize them, and also that they give the legal weapon, the law will allow for do all what he do, the Ministry of Finance, the Accountant General's Department. And we attempt to talk about how do you address how do you develop policy in response to economic crisis, what we can call the roadmap to an independent national economy. Although we not exhaust them sufficiently, but we begin the attempt for talk about the problem. So today we will continue that conversation from which we stop. I intend for also go more in detail for bring out how Parliament actually responsible for the collapse of the economy, and Parliament cannot be excused from the failure of the BO government, especially so parliamentary leaders of the opposition were willing collaborators in the crisis will unfold in the country. So I want to thank Kuna very much. for our attendance. And as I see already, people are coming into the show and listening to the conversation. Mobishia, today, because I'm on the road, I have been traveling a lot the last couple of days. I am in DC for a couple of meetings, and I intend for day around the East Coast of the United States between New York and Washington, D.C. For the next couple of days. Part of my presence here will include meetings that involve the annual gathering of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. I see since I disclosed that there has been a lot of argument from both opposition people, supporters of the sellout opposition in parliament largely, and also the ruling party supporters. Some of them appear to be very offended and then think say it's unusual, it's not supposed to be something that one should attend. But I have been sitting here wondering to myself why the news that I will be in an international meeting or a meeting where people from various countries will be meeting should become a point of debate for Sierra Leoneans. Why will it become the subject of conversation? So, and to the extent that some of the opposition supporters and ruling party supporters will work with them, because now I don't divide opposition into two parts. You get the opposition where they work with Madabio for getting second term, and they were largely than the parliamentarian then, most of them. And they have their own colleagues outside of parliament that they are part of that state capture arrangement. And then you get the opposition where they're under siege, where they hold them hostage, they keep them under oath. Of course, when I know the travel ban imposed on certain officials, although some people who worked in government have been excused from the corruption because they support Madabio. They want me Madabio continue. So Madabio not got any problem with any opposition politician we support an agenda, whether that opposition politician in a parliament or not. I have spoken about there is no way we can talk about corruption under Ernest by Kuruma, under the APC, and ignore parliament. For example, there is no way we can talk about corruption under Ernest Kuruma. We not talk about the role of Cherikoko as a strategic member of parliament at one point, head of the Transparency Committee, Finance Committees, Mining Committees, and to the extent that he was Deputy Speaker of Parliament. So you know, go talk about corruption under the APC without talking about the leaders of Parliament under Ernest Kroma, including in this case Cherikoko, where everybody knows say now a significant individual in the APC at the time, especially in Parliament. He has served in Parliament in various strategic committees. So no mining agreement, corrupt mining agreement, no passed, no specific contract and bilateral arrangement and everything will lead to the loss of money and theft of resources under the APC of 10 years that Cherikoko will come clean of it. So the question is, why did the Commission of Inquiry refuse or did not include an inspection of strategic members of Parliament, including Cherno Ramadan Majuba, who was Deputy Speaker of Parliament, and the other leaders of Parliament that he worked with in Parliament, but they just focused on cabinet and other people. So we therefore understand how we address problems of the country independent of we party affiliation, the selective approach to addressing problems. And for a long time now, Parliament don't function like secret society bush. Nobody cares about what goes on in the Parliament, just as how then they up that hill, the people then just visit and just that separate world and a separate group of people. Nobody, not for inspector, nobody, not for. But they are not clean. They are not saints in Parliament. No problem no they happen at the country without Parliament. No agreement, no appointment, nothing functions in government without parliamentary involvement, parliamentary approval. We have to underline that. And when we talk about the role and significance of Parliament, we are not hating against anybody. We're not, this is not a war against individuals. It's just the reality of the situation. We cannot talk about democracy, transparency, accountability, good governance, human rights without mentioning the role of Parliament and the institutions. Parliament is an integral component of governance. So whether you're a member of the opposition in Parliament, member of the ruling party in Parliament, all of you are equally bound by the Constitution and the law and the regulations governing good governance. We are not immune from inspection or from being investigated. In other parts of the world, when we talk about the scrutinizing, you Yeah, I, I just want to emphasize the fact that we're there on the road, and the internet go perhaps going to go up and down sometimes. You're going to go back and forth and on and off. But in the process, we will try to get the conversation going forward as we keep moving. So I'll be just to emphasize that it is more than important for us to pay attention to Parliament and parliamentary, the role of Parliament in this process. So we intend for continue with conversation where we start regarding the role of Parliament and how Parliament aid the central bank, the Bank of Sierra Leone, in the weaponization of the currency, the Leone, in the process. And we will not talk about the first part. This is the second part of the discussion. And I want to talk about the failure of Parliament, deliberate failure of parliamentarians, both in the opposition and ruling party, for provide the necessary function that they are supposed to provide for make sure say they rescue the economy. But they deliberately allowed what is happening and unfolding in front of us to happen. And that's an economic crime. Parliament, the central bank, the Ministry of Finance, whatever Ministry of Finance, I'm talking about the finance minister, the financial secretary, the accountant general's department, and all of the institutions were responsible for the development of policy, economic policy, financial policy, fiscal policy. We don't plunge the country into economic crisis. They committed a financial crime, an economic crime that they have to be held responsible for. The leaders of parliament, from the Speaker of Parliament to the various leaders of individual political parties in parliament, and the parliamentarians collectively. So I can show that, in fact, that when we talk about these things, we are not making accusations against parliamentarians, but we're talking about what they are sworn to do, what they are paid to do, and how they fail to do what they are supposed to do, what they are paid to do, not because they do not know that's something they're supposed to do, but they collaborated in creating the economic crisis. They cannot be excused from it. And that I want to talk about. So I will, I know we get fluctuation with the internet. I have been on the road. I got to talk about perhaps the anxiety on the part of certain opposition politicians, their supporters, and the ruling party and their supporters regarding what they think my participation in international meetings. But this is not new for me. I want to tell you now, say, because we are munku there, or people who are not Sabina the world, not mean say some of us are not known. No, we don't come out too far for make we not get the necessary connections or the necessary recognition for the work that we've been doing for more than 20 years. I want to make una know that. We just don't talk about it. We just don't brag about it. We just don't mention it. And for those of you who are not aware, for over 10 years now, we've been on the database of the IMF and World Bank. So I get invited, or I get invitations to go to annual meetings every year for the last 10 years. I just do not attend in the past, but we are always represented. But this time I decided to go for specific reasons, some of which I'm not mentioning here. But we don't realize, say, we cannot sit back and allow a handful of rogue politicians and their agents in civil society, both within the country and outside of the country, for ruining the country. Now that we'll try to stop. And it's high time we begin to work by foot now, and begin going at the very places where they lie to people and lie about the country, for tell them, say, you've been lied to, you've been misled by some of these people. And I will tell you now for free, many of these civil society individuals, politicians, they are individual backers, academics, and everybody in the country and outside of the country, in outside of the country, who have been doing that spade work. We've identified all of them. We know them. And it's high time we begin to bring them out into the public and shame them, because they are, you cannot sit back behind the scenes and begin participate in a program deliberately for destroy the future of a country. So the argument around my invitation or my going to the annual meetings of the World Bank and IMF not come out of anything, because there has been an effort on the part of the politicians in parliament, certain of the opposition politicians and the ruling party, and then backers and their supporters, both in civil society, in the media, in Sierra Leone and outside of Sierra Leone, for stigmatize, for feeling they're able for stigmatize we, present we in a way that we are not in the eyes of international organizations and governments. But what they fail to understand is that we do not need to defend our work. We do not need to talk about who we are. If we do that, we just do that for them, those who do not know who we are or who think we can be smeared. For me to understand, it's a fruitless endeavor. You don't have to do that. In the final analysis, the future of the country should be more important to any Sierra Leonean, any well-meaning Sierra Leonean than anything else. And for me, that is my commitment. My commitment is to what is good for the country, what is right. In the final analysis, I don't even want to know the name of the president as long as the governance is good in the country. That's my own interest. So you think, say, my work is affecting your flag bearer, whether hidden or open, and you are against me for that, it's your business. For me, my candidate or the candidate of the African Express is good governance, accountability, and transparency, the rule of law. That is what we care about. So I want to say that up front before we go into the real conversation. But please invite more people into this conversation. I want to assure you that we're in a better place. Today, if there's an interruption in the broadcast, I believe it has to do with the fact that the internet, we are on the road. The internet will be slow and things like that. And like I say, since Wednesday, I have been in the East Coast traveling between Washington, D.C. and New York and other places like that. And my travel also has to do with the situation in Sierra Leone, the deteriorating situation in Sierra Leone. And not deteriorating because the politicians, when they create the problem, they arrest themselves. Not to that with a concern, but the fact that we don't arrive at a point where we do not know, or we have very few people who we can trust now in the country who masquerade as leaders. But that's a different conversation. So I thank you for this. I'll take a small break and breathe a little bit, and then hoping that we will continue to share the information, share the link, invite more people before we go into the conversation. I intend to make today's discussion very short, just addressing the question of the Bank of Sierra Leone, the role of Parliament. But before then, I also go for summarizing brief the developments of the last week, or this week. We just done so before we get into it. So keep sharing and inviting people. And thank you all for being here and for being part of the regular audience. I will take a small break, as I say, and then come back momentarily for make we really go into the meat of the conversation.
You are go make like so, you know.
Okay. Thank you again. Like I just said, today is Saturday, as you already know. Every Saturday we can continue the conversation. Last week we talked about the Bank of Sierra Leone. A very great discussion, I must say. I enjoyed it. And we talk about specifically the central bank, how the central bank, just like the ACC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Judiciary of Sierra Leone, the police department, they are all part of the institutional network of state capture, where Parliament, the executive branch of government, and the judiciary, they use all of these institutions, laws and institutions for clamp down on opposition in the country. We don't see the how the Anti-Corruption Commission has been weaponized against real opposition politicians. So if you want for no real opposition at the salon today, just look at the opposition with a case, with Madabiodongi case for the most part. These are the opposition politicians that he is against. Not because like I say, you're not going to talk about corruption at Sierra Leone. You excuse parliament. You excuse parliamentarian electoral Koko way work in a parliament from 2007 right up to now. And if there was no corruption that happened in the 10 years of Anes by Kuruma that the parliamentarians, especially the parliamentary leaders at that time, could be excused from. Anybody do that will be very selective. And when you don't want to talk about that, you've been hypocritical. And that is the point. And we cannot develop a country, we cannot advance a country, we cannot move a country forward through hypocrisy and selective approach to justice. That in itself is not development. That is anti-development. It is against development. It is against development to select and define people as corrupt, as criminal, simply because they are opposed to your policies. It is unhelpful to present corrupt individuals as not corrupt because they support your government in power. That is not how you develop a country. When you are up against corruption, when you are up against bad governance, when you are up against injustice, you must be able to name and shame each and any individual, regardless of your relationship with that individual, regardless of whether that person, now you fumble, now you come up from the same ethnic group, you come up from the same school where you attend, or belong to the same political party. That is, in fact, that religion they teach. Religion they teach, we say, if you're able to tell the truth, regardless of whether that truth is going to affect your own family members or your friends or your colleagues, or your schoolmates. So anybody when you're able pursue justice, fight for what is right, and the cover or support something way wrong because you believe, say, by so doing you are helping somebody, your clansman or your friend or your family member, they really help your family or your country or your group. Because in the final analysis, the more we're able to tell ourselves the truth, the more we're able to correct individuals who are dangerous within our community, the more progress we're able to get. So if we're able to distinguish between the two, when people identify problems and problem makers, when people identify the evil in our society and evildoers, it does not mean that they are against those individuals. They are trying to make sure that evil and what is right, what is wrong is gotten rid of. For me, I do not really care about how you feel about when I speak about these things. What I care about is the evidence that informs me. The things and what I use, where I see, where I identify, will make me for hold these opinions. So I know they worry about whether you go vex by me or you go decide for curse me or insult me because I say these things. As long as I'm convinced it's the truth, be rest assured I will continue to say them. So another one for say today, we don't get an interesting week. We just pass, and that interesting week include, among other things, voter registration. We then say don't already, with all the difficulties, don't already wind down the 2 weeks registration because this is really problematic. Incomplete 2 weeks because the rotation we can do illegal registration process where he violated the law. Apart from the corruption, the theft of over $10 million that they think we have forgotten about, we haven't. But apart from that, Corner decided to organize, the ECSL decided to organize voter registration outside of the law. And we don't see the silence of Parliament, and parliamentarians have spoken about it. We don't have to spend more time to talk about them. But we have to salute the determination of citizens of Sierra Leone in Freetown, in Makeni, in Putloko, in Lunsar, in Mashimbi, Makalima, Tutuka, and many of the towns and villages in communities in the north and northwest and western area where there was an effective effort to suppress and prevent people from registering. They still came out. People in Komonadu hold their umbrella there, take them bench them, take them chair them for go register. This is a very unprecedented thing. It tells us, it give people like we courage, because what it tells us is that our voices, our messages of encouragement, our calls and appeals are not falling down on deaf ears. That people are really paying attention. People are listening, and they are taking the advice. They are paying attention to some of these conversations. So we for continue for talk to people because we believe they take action. So we see that determination on people for register. Of course, there are many people who are still unable to register. And what do we see? They say the only extension that CONE and the ECSL can provide is just 2 days. 2 days. In fact, these 2 days recommendation appear to have come from some of the members of the opposition who have been there against registration. When we talk about registration and the effort of we even help some of the opposition politicians the way to support the parliamentary leaders. We don't in real marriage with Madabio. We try to help them forget second time. Some of their supporters now we got to learn, even traveled later on for go register when they don't decide to go register. And these are people we have increasing evidence of people who initially we are told not to go to Sierra Leone to register. Some of them now had to travel from Columbus, from New Jersey, and other places in the US for go register now, eventually. So we still got to find out what is the response for their change of heart. But if anything, we don't count for land, say, a determined, like I talked the other day, the truth does not require a crowd to be told. It just requires a determined group of men, no matter how few they are, men and women, who are committed to telling that truth and be persistent and resilient in telling that truth. In the final analysis, the truth may win. Not to the crowd, nobody win. It's the truth. Do not be afraid. Do not be intimidated to stand on the side of truth, even if you are alone. Even if you are alone, there is power in truth. There is strength in truth. There is also peace in knowing that you stand for something that is correct. Right now, I tell you, many of the politicians in Sierra Leone are worried, especially the sellout opposition politicians. They don't really sleep because they know, say, the determination of the people for vote Madabio out is obvious. That they spend sleepless nights on how to thief the election. And it's becoming so difficult because we self-determined, say, no, we're not going to thief this election or we're not going to try for thief out. But it can be impossible to do. We are making it impossible, and it's going to be increasingly impossible to do. The power and voice of the people of Sierra Leone and their democratic choice in the final analysis is going to win. And that we want for assure, and that we want to tell them. And that is our commitment. Now we're undivided and definite commitment. So, of course, when I will expect to talk about this drama around the arrest of people and all of that. If I want to talk about that, I will tell them we don't initiate an investigation. Long time ago, when we realized state capture, the nature and character of state capture, we don't initiate an investigation a long time ago for verify some of these reported arrests of opposition politicians, their supporters, and cases like that. If they talk about the arrested detention of people, I will talk about the young men and young women who genuinely support democracy and accountability, who came out in Tombo and were fired and shot and killed by police officers. Some of their colleagues were arrested. Some even have died in jail. And no opposition politician. Nobody, they don't make the news. There is no trending. The Bar Association, the civil society, the Institute of Governance Reform, the Andrew Lavalis, all of these people cannot tweet in defense of those. When we go back and remember, I think it was in October or before then in Makeni, where young men and young women came out to protest, to defend, to argue that a generator that's providing electricity, whether the economic and social right, is the responsibility of government for provide social services to the citizens of Sierra Leone. You don't understand, light, hospital, water, Now this generator we provide a light, they say take and go to na Lunge to strip the people of Makeni of their electricity supply. Police come out and kill them. Some of the civil society people were divided. Many of them condemned the young people in Makeni for coming out to protest in defense of their economic and social right. But now they want to, and many people who were arrested in Makeni, in Lonsari, in Tumbul, they died in jail, or they've died in jail, including the young man where police shoot in front of the Deputy Internal Affairs Minister in house. Do you know whether he's still alive? Where is he? When I don't ever talk about him, when I don't ever investigate or find out about him, when I don't tweet about him, no. And you have all these lawyers, all these lawyers, civil society activists, so-called civil society activists, and so-called human rights campaigners, all of a sudden, overnight, thinking that we have to be seduced by their tweets, by their Facebook posts regarding the alleged detention of a colleague of theirs. No, we have a skepticism now regarding the so-called arrest of political party members and supporters of the enterprise for Give Madabi a second time. We know who you are. We don't know that a long time ago. If we close the eyes, we know which side the line divide. We know the dividing line. We know who is an opposition that is in bed with the regime. We know now all. We know the real opposition that's under siege. You can perhaps think you are deceiving your own supporters, but you're not deceiving us. And I'm happy now because a few months ago, some of these politicians they use proxies, small people and for send other people for send we, hey, they don't arrest so person. They don't just I tell them, go report to the police. Like 2 days ago, a young man just woke me from sleep with a phone call, somebody I've not spoken to. Hey, Cherno, African Express, we see one container, cocaine, don't kind of Wataki, did they try for hide and they try for go to Liberia or Guinea. We want to make you tweet about and report about this now, like 2 days ago. So you don't, that's so, the container gets X amount of kilo, so. I say, who are you? Who are they work for? No, me na Wataki area, they do business. I say, so how do you know about this? We the see, so. Well, now I say, do you realize I'm a journalist? He say, yes. You realize I'm not a policeman? He say, yes. You realize I'm not a law enforcement person? Me not a reporter with the report news. So why do you tell me? If you see crime they happen, would I have a first call? Call the police or you lawmakers then. Why not call you honorable? Why not call Cherry Coco or you call the other people back and tell them, I'm a journalist. I know, just grab them and tell me, say, hey, they know, container they happen, and somebody they pan thief and more, you think that go right? No, that's not how I do. Call the police. If a crime, when you see a crime that's happening, call the policemen and go there. It's the responsibility of the police and law enforcement agencies for stop crime and for arrest criminals. As a journalist, I know which information are they report on, and before I report on something, I go down. In fact, I should, if a crime, I should be the one telling you. Let me forgive you information. That's not to say people do not provide us information, but basically, who now with them politicians they use, then opposition politician there, a ruling party politician there, where they don't form alliance, where they use for things say when I go pass rumor through we. Do ya? When I tell them say next time make themselves call for now, make themselves make the call. Some of them we don't tell them, say, stop thinking that you can pass fake news through us. No. I will not tell people that even where the investigations that we do, we have a triangulated approach. Sometimes before the African Express publish information, we don't spend months and months and months the investigator and triangulator and verify foolproof because of our integrity. We have nearly 1 million subscribers on our mail list. Some people, some of those subscribers, they don't even know Sierra Leone. They've never been there, but they've come to learn about Sierra Leone, the corruption and the corrupt politicians alone through we. For many years, we owe an obligation to make sure any information, if we put A out in the name of the African Express, it's an A that we will be able to verify and stand by and proof. So that's what it is. So Una tell them una politician they wake you want for use una for send information to people them way at least we know say plenty people don't lost credibility in a salon by their own design. Some of the, both our politicians, lawyers, academics, civil society, because in pursuit of their own selfish ambition, they don't destroy their own credibility. And they are aware of this. Nobody's listening to them. Nobody believes what they are saying. And we cannot have a country where the supposed leaders are no longer trusted, both by their own people and by international people. We still have to have citizens, even if we are few, who will say a fire has erupted in McKinney, so people know say yes, fire don't do this. So somebody will get a fire brigade, go there for go hot the fire. But we cannot have a situation where a whole country's image and its reputation, national integrity, is going to be watered down without 1, 2, or 3, or 4, 5 men and women who at least whose voices will matter, whose voices will rescue. So when I don't destroy our own image and reputation, when I not bring that to we, when I continue there. When I continue there. Keep destroying yourself. Keep destroying yourself. Do not carry us along your path of destruction. We refuse to be part of that. So, few months ago, I can tell this story. I know I want to talk about the Bank of Salon, but I share because it's our responsibility to also educate our people around some of these things. Few months ago, this was when we talk about that chicken container, when they say that drugs container. So somebody called me and said, hey, drugs don't kind of free to. I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? Hey, they don't. I tell the body there's law enforcement. When I start by that, I cannot just report about container of drugs don't land in Freetown port. Even if government announce say they don't catch a drug container at the port, I don't just report and say drug container because government don't tell me that or police don't tell me that. I can for find out. I can for verify, for make sure say yes, the said container is filled with drugs. That indeed, not because government talk and that. So I get for verify them. I don't. Police don't tell me no more say they don't hold 1,000 criminals. I say they are all a criminal because police don't say that. I have to find out. I can find out whether the police they tell me true, whether the government is saying actually the truth. Because I'm a responsibility that as a journalist, and not only as an investigative journalist, I'm responsible for investigate even statements that I'm told by authorities in power and verify them independently. Even though I quote officials don't say this, but I verify truth. I am not in haste. Me not the run for be the first person to say something. I want to be the person that says something that is correct and true. Even if I'm last to talk about her. That is who I am. That is the principle that I'm committed to. Me not a breaking news journalist. No. I'm an investigative journalist. I'm a citizen that wants to make sure that whatever I say should be something that I'm able to defend and also substantiate with evidence. Now that I want to talk about. So then tell me about this. If I remember that drug container where they say don't count, it's not chicken, this and that, PC and so on. So when I was told, I took the number of the container and tracked this so-called container or shipment where they say drugs. I see 2 vessels. I go as far as, and I look even the maritime record of the shipments and the maritime communication. As he said, there was no international communication in the first place related to these 2 ships that we transport this supposed container we end up in a saloon. That if this container system have been drugs container, there would have been international communication regarding the 2 ship them, the one from Brazil and the one we take we drop the container in Morocco and the one we take the 2 ship them. In fact, one at the time, I told somebody who is connected to them people where they try to get this news there out, where they develop their own news. Say, look, these people in Sierra Leone are talking about this thing. Look the international. Look, in fact, by then the 2 ships, each one be the go their own way. The other one be the return to Brazil. The other one be the head for go Ivory Coast. If 2 ships don't involved in transnational crime, there will be a flag on them already. By the time when they move Nawata, the next port where they can do, they know they move there because they will be subject of not just the national investigations alone, but a transnational investigation. So I can sit down now for the most part and look at this kind choreographed drama where they happen at Salon. And I shake my head. So I keep quiet. I not talk nothing. I set my mouth. I just watch this like when they watch film no more. You know, say the film the end. Like when you don't watch movie. Or it's not film Nigerian film. Nigerian film like you don't watch. By the time you begin, you know, say where they show the juju, then go till later the pastor get for with Bible and the end the pastor in Bible kill the juju. You know, say you know already how the juju film in Nigerian film the end. So without even paying, I don't already know how to go. So then go till the other 2 days. I get 3 people call me. In fact, the people that we broke this story, I order somebody to say, go investigate that way they talk say this thing. So I ordered an investigation in Freetown with my own staff. I say when I investigate them, people that way they holla, way say they don't broke this news and so. Check them for me. In fact, I don't forget the instructions, and I get a phone call from a journalist, a civil, and 3 individuals called me. And by the time they called me, I was even giving instruction to somebody, to my young people, and say, investigate them why for we. Go to their office, XY place, and see if they are together. I not even don't forget the instruction and what should be looked at. I received a phone call from one of these individuals. Basically, one a civil society, one a journalist, and the other civil society. 3 of them who were supposed to be subject of my. These are the people that went up and broke the story, say they don't find out about drug investigation. They called me. So they were trying to persuade me for say the story about the drug container a true story. And that they want me for post on my Facebook page. They want me for post on my Facebook page. Basically, they want me for report on my Facebook page or the African newspaper for report and say, yes, that drug container don't kind of Freetown. Already, what they know, then this journalist and in company civil society people away when they call me. When they call me for tell me about this story, how true it is. They don't even know say I did investigate. I try to make them investigate them first. How they come about this story that they are talking about. And who gave them that story or how their intelligence come. So they asked me, then go to the point they even say, okay. I say, yeah, when I want to make a post, I say, yes. I say, tell me what they even write a message we have a post. They send me. So this supposedly text me, hey, yeah, post this. I say, so I sit down. Now I say, look this fool man never. We the try for even I say, like we not investigate again, we don't get the story. The 3 people who were supposed to investigate, they already did together. Then they try now to get me for post this news, this their own news. This their suspicious story. They want me for poster now. So they want to use my own page and my own name and my own handle and my intervention to give credibility to their story that they want to tell. So when they send me, I said, can I send me the things? What I do instead, when they send me a post, say, do not be seduced by these distractions that are ongoing. And interestingly, I had witnesses in front of me and on the phone. We were basically talking about how idle this distractions, deceptive, and disinformation campaigns are ongoing. And sitting here, I feel sorry for our country. I feel sorry for the politicians and the individuals who think they are doing themselves right. And like I say, I look at it like Nigeria movie now they look. So me post say, I not be seduced by this distraction when they carry out to this disinformation, deceptive campaign. So then these individuals, I think they don't ever call me again up to now. And this was in July. I think it was July 24, 25, 26, around, I don't remember it. But if I look at my phone, I will see the exact date, the time, and the message in question. They don't ever call me again. That's July, August, September, then October, 2 months now. Because then sit down. So later on, I came to find out that then go sit these people that we want for do this, then go sit down at a little corner. Then grumble among themselves, say, hey, Cherno go down vex per we right now. I said, no, somebody, I got this report. I tell the person, tell them, say, I don't vex pan now. Me know the vex pan somebody we try for be carried away. Because many of these people, journalists, civil society people who are trapped into this web of betrayal, this web, I don't make category. I get group A, group B, group C, group D, go. That's how people are involved. There are people who are leaders and leading participants in this effort for destroy the country. There are other people that are Group A, that the principal actor, the protagonist, if you like, where the young business around this, they don't lose credibility, disinformation campaign, distraction campaigns, deceptive campaigns, campaign of lies, and they involve various sorts. So Group A, that the leaders, then they don't get other people the way they don't put into that kind of process. The way then say they participate in this, not because they want to, but they don't get choice. I call that people who are in a Group B. These are either politicians, journalists, or other people, the way either they are bribed to be part of it, or some of them, they don't blackmail them into it. Like now, for example, they say you get corruption case. They say if you don't do this for you, we will come after you. You decide for you. Okay, I don't get choice. You participate in that. This is Group B. People who are participants in this national enterprise of betrayal, disinformation campaign, deceptive campaigns, initiated by these bad politicians, both in the ruling party and the opposition, largely found in parliament. Group B, people who are unwilling participants in the process, who have been blackmailed or bribed into participating. And there's a third group, what I call Group C, that people who just want something way good, we hate it, just but they don't know that they are unable to decipher this complicity, this corrupt relationship. Some of the opposition people, if you say they support opposition, they don't say by following their opposition leaders, they are working for the government. These are Group C. So you can call them the ignorant participants in this process of this process. Then there are other people who, then they just, if anything, the trend, they just want to follow no more. They within the trend, what is trending. That are the falafala people there. So this category, I have this. So what you can make now, sometimes I find someone in Group E, in the next moment, I don't care and go group C. Or somebody in the Group B, I can go Group A. Because of how they behave, how they continuously participate in this process. So we got to be very, very careful nowadays. And this is very bad in the country. Because I don't tell people that now say, those who work for me or work with me, my colleagues, journalists who report for the African Express in Sierra Leone or outside of Sierra Leone, when we assess, I say anything coming from Sierra Leone now, we have to be very careful with it. We have to make, if we're going to use a 3-pronged approach now, for make a 9-pronged process of verification. I say because it's not enough. Somebody tells you they don't kill pussy and they don't cut somebody in throat and they didn't have blood. They don't say, hey, hi manager, I see the blood. Well, they don't talk in blood. I say you have to make sure the blood where you see, not to one goat them you don't kill, then put the blood inside one plastic bag, then go lay the person, then bust the plastic bag. Because you see the person, they don't blood, they think say the person, then throat, then cut. You have to go there and verify and get evidence that the esophagus of the individual has been cut, really. That this throat, maybe throat and cut, not to one plastic bag blood, then just bust. So seeing the blood is not enough to tell you that, yes, indeed, that the person blood is. You have to really make sure. It's so bad. It's so bad. Because what it is they do, when you have a genuine situation now, it will be very difficult to even distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. And if it's problematic for us as Sierra Leoneans, imagine how difficult it will be for friends of Sierra Leone, internationals who do not know the intricacies and the dimensions of this situation. Now that is the try for lead we into. And I'm making this, I don't want to talk about this, some of these things publicly, but I think it's now important for me to say it publicly. Those of you who rely on me, who depend on me for the verification of truth, I want to assure you, say, do you allow me, make una not allow people and for use una for try for help for confuse the situation in Sierra Leone. I want to make una know say we as an organization, the African Express, and me as a strategic member of that process, as one of the people who lead the process to determine what information can be reported or published about Sierra Leone from the African Express. Una know if anybody give una something, forgive me, una left them. I have my own process of getting information. I have my own process of checking information. We have our own process of verifying information. Do not be used by individuals to try to discredit other individuals. For the last 2 months, I've been spending a lot of time educating people, organizing private discussions for some Sierra Leoneans with on social media, with the genuine people who they do genuine work, peaceful work. For say, we have to be careful now with the situation in Sierra Leone because it's worrying. These are individuals who are also committed. They try to get things right democratically. Say, don't be in haste to talk about issues. Try to verify them first. Because what we have in Sierra Leone is a discredited group of elites, professionals, lawyers, bankers, business people, academics, politicians who don't come together to protect the status quo, and they want to do that by all means. And in the process, they've lost their credibility. They want to destroy the credibility of the country, the national image, and everybody within it, and that's connected to it. We cannot allow that to happen. So I've been watching it like a Nigerian movie, and few people who have been able to succeed to educate, foresee the intricate nature, the difficulty of this situation. When they see and they get two sets of fear. I call it a double-edged fear. A fear for yourself as an individual Sierra Leonean and how worse our country has become, and a fear for the country, because these people know they stop at anything. And we pray every day to God, say, do ya, Papa God, help we save this country, help prevent the Nambara and Albalawi and Dombolo, where them people they are, don't try for the Kasara where they want to put in our country, because they are not stopping at anything. And not to matter be no more, una leaders then, but they are politicians, they are in the opposition, from parliament and outside of parliament, where they help Mother Bill because of their own selfish ambition. They use the court, use the judiciary and all other institutions, police, for confuse una. Una get to be very careful now with this kind of situation. We all get to be very careful. So sometimes they don't like me, for example, they've stopped calling me now. They don't stop because I don't tell them, I don't tell them upfront, take it, I don't bring with nonsense again. Yeah. And I can name names of people, but I have professional reasons, I don't stop for do that. I don't go do it now. But if I'm pushed to do it, not only names, but I will show Mr. X, Madam Y, and this and this and this. Do not think that we don't know these things. Greater number of people in Sierra Leone, outside of Sierra Leone, whether they're Sierra Leoneans, non-Sierra Leoneans, have seen through this. I don't talk the equivalent of this situation, like standing in a market square where you are naked and you don't even know that you are naked. You do not need to be told you are naked. You should be able to recognize your nakedness before somebody that is looking at you tell you, boy, you naked, boy. Because in the final, when you are properly dressed, when you are really dressed, fully dressed, and you cover yourself will know. But if you are naked in front of the public, there is no way you can hide your nakedness. You will be appearing more foolish and really more idiotic in the real sense of the word, to even think that you are not naked when you yourself know you are naked. Talk less of people who are looking at your nakedness. So, and this is my word for the politicians and the professionals. It's high time you stop this foolishness. We not stop for deceiving ourselves. The whole world is disgraceful. It is disgraceful to the country. We not put the country to shame. We are tired of being embarrassed by your own lack of character. Lack of character, lack of integrity. We have to think about our kids, young kids, very beautiful kids, beautiful young Sierra Leoneans who are toddlers coming up, looking forward to a better country with great dreams. How can they have role models when many of you have just turned out to be social crooks? I mean, this is unbelievable. I intended to make this broadcast very brief. I'm not going to the subject of the conversation, but I just decided it will be a disservice on my part if I not tell the people. And so now be careful with the news they want to hear now. Right now, we are not for police, judge, court, police, Parliament they all don't turn to Banfa business and no enter the country. We have lost. This is the danger of state capture. When state capture takes hold in a country, it destroys not just the institutional arrangement, but even the individual character of people you look up to as leaders. So we now have a situation where national politicians, many of them, as I say, as far as African Special is concerned, nobody all man not credible. No, that's not what we are saying. Those of you who are deceptive, who have organized this campaign of destroying the country, are the ones that are on the personal stage. And your colleagues who, in the opposition, that you have blackmailed into silence, that you've threatened into silence, that you've betrayed. I'm not saying they are, they've shown, at least there's a difference between these two groups, the opposition that's in bed with Madabio and the opposition that's under siege, that has been put under siege by Madabio, and Wuna, the opposition politicians, were allied with Madabio. There's a distinction. There's a major difference. And those of you who've sold out, one for paint the picture, say, we don't believe everybody in the country. No, they are still believable characters. But they do not have the power and the voice. And I don't even kick them out of the space. The same way when I try to kick we out of the public dialogue. But we have become resilient, say, not possible. As long as there's social media, there's other avenues, the instruments of mass communication will allow us to communicate. We will continue to communicate this message. And you cannot take us along in your enterprise of destruction. We don't identify with all. We know the one they winning at the country where they do this, the one they way outside of the country, whether they are in England, in the United States, hidden and known. We know them. We know how many of the civil society people then were supposed to be opposition, or they controlled by, for example, Cherikoko and the entire movement. We know now all. It's a small country of 8 million people. The people who are active are very few. So to map out a group of 100 players or 300 players, 300 group of people in a chain, it's so easy in a country like Sierra Leone. So we're able to connect to now, either by family, by school, by, we know the networks. And like I don't say, I have committed myself to write about these things now. And I talk about it now because I realize that many of the people in a salon, perhaps many of them don't get the opportunity for read what we write. So when we write now, we know say sufficient international to other people where they read, go read about salon, even if you're not a salon, go read that through we. So I have decided to take upon this responsibility. And I thank then and now and Mr. Prince Kroma for provide we the platform at we own disposal for continue for get this conversation. And after this broadcast, we will make them available, put them on audio and other smaller versions for circulate to people that we know to read, so that if you are in Kono, in Kamakwe, or in Bamoy Luma, you go able to read what we talk about. Because that's when I feel no get access to that. And that's what you're preventing. So we'll try to make the audios available and accessible, and hoping that anyone we receive an audio, we will pass it on to another family member, brother and sister, like that, so that the message will spread. But that through this way, we don't able to forget people to understand the importance of registering, importance of voting. And I repeat, we are not for violence. We believe, say, society can change through ideas, through knowledge, and through education, proper understanding of things. And that is what we are struggling to do. Now we own effort on this. So let's take a quick break and then come back to talk about the Bank of Sierra Leone and the role of parliamentarians in the destruction of our economy. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys, for the patience and the time. As you say, the chat room is also busy. Yes, God will surely remove this disease from us. That is from Nana Jabi. Ami Konde, excellent. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, we get for able for talk to yourself as family. Many of these politicians who they talk about, I want to emphasize that people that we all go school with, or we may have attended the same school. We do not hate you. We are just disappointed that many of these people, supposedly young people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, in pursuit of their own selfish agenda, not care about integrity, not care about national image. You cannot have, when you talk about citizenship, when you talk about a homeland, you're talking about image. What make people proud of a country? Say, me as Sierra Leonean. Now, the image of the country, what makes that country what it is, and what makes a country. It's not the country itself, not to the trees, the landscape alone. It's not that. Not about the beautiful beaches. We get good university. We get land. We get good forest, Gola forest. We get Takaguma, chimpanzee, sanction. That is not just the environment. It's the people within that environment, who they are, their thought process, their character, their behavior. We have to sit down and ask ourselves, what is the national character of Sierra Leone? What is the kind of image do we want to build? How do we want to be known as as a people collectively outside of the country and within the country? So it's not enough to talk about national cohesion, national emancipation, this idea of Southeast versus North. That is not the problem. The problem is, how do we want to see ourselves as a country, as a nation? Nationhood. Do we understand what nationhood is all about? I didn't talk about nationalism. I'm talking about the character of a people. Who do we want? How do we want to be seen as a people coming from a place of the planet that's called Sierra Leone that will make us distinguishable from the rest of the other, not because of the Ronco, the Wero, that they know. What is the kind of character that we want to embody as individuals that we can carry, not just the name that we, not just as Chernobyl, but as a Sierra Leonean? What are we able to say? This is the character of Sierra Leone. This is the image of. This is who we are as Sierra Leoneans. Can we answer those questions? Do we have a uniform interpretation of who we are as Sierra Leoneans? And the ideal, the national ideal, the national idea, the national image, or the national vision that we have, not just a new direction, vision 2020, prosperity, or whatever you might call it. Who have we sat back and think about? How do we want to be known as Sierra Leoneans? Beyond the fact that we are Athens, how do you want to call it? Athens of West Africa. Oh, we get nice beaches, nice, or we are a land of diamond and gold, or Lion Mountain, or whatever you might come to characterize. Who are we as a people? Do we have that? That one day, so I sit back and begin to wonder, what kind of set of people are we? Especially when I look at, for example, take these lawyers now for the last 2 days, how they have behaved. Look at them. Look at the lawyers. Look at these lawyers. People with 10 years, 15 years post-bar experience. Look at them. Look at their character. Look how they have tried to animate the country. And do you ask yourself why the whole world is sitting back and looking at this group of men calling themselves lawyers, and their collaboration with the police department and what they have done in the last 48 hours? These are professionals, though, lawyers, men of letters, supposedly educated people. Because when you talk about lawyers, you're talking about a professional class, distinguishable among the elite, bourgeois elite in the society, who should embody certain kind of a pretentious character. But look at them. When you look at that group of people and what they've done in the last 24 hours, and the police, law, people wait for defend the law, and people wait for enforce the law. We talk about law enforcement. You cannot talk about rule of law without lawyers and enforcers of the law. If we are to investigate this enterprise that they embarked on with the police department in the last 24 hours, and you use that as a unit of analysis for understand who we are as a country, can we really identify with that group of men and women and say their character, their conduct in the last 24 hours should characterize who we are as Sierra Leoneans? This is something to think about. Anyway, I want to extend this discussion. We'll talk about the Bank of Sierra Leone that we started last week. Last week, we talked about Kerfala Kalon, a well-trained economist, you might say, went to the University of Virginia. By every indication, this year, University of Virginia is ranking, I think, 25 in the U.S. News university rankings, national ranking of universities in the United States is number 25. And so I say that simply because we assess institutions by the metrics, by the common metrics of assessment, whether it's the Times, but in this case, I'm using the U.S. News university rankings. So University of Virginia, no to Kalo place, no to Mushroom Institution. That is where Kerfala Kalon was trained. And as he say, he has served as a governor, as an economist, a teacher, somebody who don't teach people who don't, in the last 30 years, some of whom have graduated and perhaps don't end up in very responsible positions where they've developed sound economic policies and programs. So we are not faced with an economic crisis in Sierra Leone simply because we do not have an educated economist. We have one of the best, or an individual who was supposedly trained in one of the best universities in the United States and by extension in the world. So the question then becomes, if we have a situation where the economic and fiscal policy, macroeconomic policy of the country has led to crisis, has plunged the economy into crisis, we cannot blame that to illiteracy. We cannot blame that on the fact that we do not have an economist taking leading the Bank of Sierra Leone. So we have to find out what led us to where we are. In our last discussion, we pointed out the fact that Kerfala Kalon's interpretation of the economic crisis on the day of his appointment informed us that he was coming to do a witch hunt against the opposition. So whatever monetary policy or policy that was developed and decision that was taken to regulate the money market was one that was designed as part of the many other actions taken by the state to suppress opposition politicians. And let me say, this is not a defense for anybody who has stolen money in the past. I'm just saying that we cannot plunge the ordinary people of Sierra Leone into deplorable condition, more deplorable condition because of the war between two political parties or, warlord politicians. They say, wait two elephants they fight, now the grass to suffer, and that's what we've had. So Kerfala Kalon, in our last discussion, we talked, say, took over, on the day we took over the bank, he said, they're going to go after the APC politician, in this case, Anes Kuruma and his other officials that he led, because he believes they are keeping money in their houses, and they are hoarding currency, that's the result. So they went as far as introducing a new currency. And now, then put a moratorium, or if you not come with your money now, we keep in our house, the old Leone for changer, by the end of August, then your money don't buff. Basically, by the end of August, we should not have what they call the new Leone in the country. Only one paper, new Leone. We don't forget, then cancel all the other zeros. So they bring new paper money, new currency, as a way for solve the problem with the old currency, because the old currency, they can say the opposition politicians don't take out, they don't go keep under their house, they don't, them mattress, they now under their bed now, inside the dining room, they don't dig, they don't put money inside, and so Kerfala Kalon. Those are accusations. So he say, and not to me, tell you, now Global Times, when SLPP, pro SLPP newspaper, the journalists we interview right now, they work na SLR as the board chairman, Sheikh Bawo, na interview. And this interview followed the day Kerfala Kalon was appointed on the 15th of August, 2018. Now, 15th of August, 2019 was 1 year. 15th of August, 2020 was 2 years. 15th of August, 2021 was 3 years. 15th of August, 2022 was 4 years. So it's now well over 4 years, almost 4 years, 2 months since Kerfala Kalon was appointed. He don't chase APC politicians will keep money. He don't auction all the dollar we will keep at the Central Reserve as the Bank of Sierra Leone, hoping that way more dollar go on the street, the dollar in price go come down, the Leone will go up. It not happen. What he do last year, in third anniversary, he tell Parliament, say, made them get a new law. so that they go count new money now. So the one way keep the old money, made the money all buff that they had. Now, a month ago, by the end of August, he talks say, you know what? I've been feel say this new paper will bring, it go solve this problem, but the problem is solved. So now the country forget two money. The one the way we get the old one now, we get the new one now. The two the country for run on two currency up to April, end of April, or thereabout. So which means state election can now therefore continue. We don't talk about last week how the idea was to give economic sanctions to the opposition, thinking that opposition politicians they keep money at their house, they're not going able for use that for campaign. And some of the opposition politicians, again, when a parliament, if we don't stop this, let me get the power for stop this, let me get the power for even stop the bank governor from becoming the bank governor, because you don't already tell them, say, he was coming to implement the political decisions of the ruling party. And he, Kalfala Kalon, is a member of the SLPP, as well as he's an economist, a qualified one, but he don't write sufficiently before, and if we appoint her, he make a political statement, write a political statement, so the parliamentarian therefore don't question him, and even oppose in appointment, say this man a politician, and they don't talk away guy go after the he go use the central bank to go after the opposition, he go use monetary policy to go after the opposition, he go starve the opposition. So he try for do that exactly. They approve and make it do that, and when the guy he do exactly that, that's how we end up. Now we don't only the Leone not only don't loss in value, we don't get two money in the country, two money they run concurrently. Then the parliamentarian will be have up say the company when the fact that the opposition would not suffer by now, they know getting for it. The money go all go down well, then vex. They begin use their own journalists and say, when I harass the bank governor, for sack him, if I resign, if I resign. They not talk how they contribute to the problem. And I decided to come to this conversation for tell una say, if we get for pray for me thunder fire, then one day we pull with currency. When I know no more say when I pray that prayer, they tender. It start with Abbas Bundu in head, he come out, they go to Cherikoko, he end up to Kande Yunkela, and all the parliamentarians decide Emasi Lamina before he reach to Kenfala Kalong. If I not take time, you go even jump mad at you. Because these people learn the same way with them pump an eskruma and they be and talk say after you na you, they make an eskruma believe say he is a godfather president. He's almost super powerful, supremo. Then they be and help until he commit all the constitutional crimes and whatever happened, and now they plunge him where he is. Now the same people that hide behind Madabi also. Together with Madabi now they help him for me commit. He don't commit more crimes. More atrocities don't happen in the country. Economic atrocities, political atrocities as well. Both constitutional and physical. So now they tell you say one of the things say when they pray against Mother, I know say that prayer they get for kids. And I make Satan say we been there behind them don't come up. And I make we don't see them. So now, as soon as they see. So I want to really talk about this, the seriousness of it, because it's an economic crime. When a group of elites sit on a country and gang up and decide for use law and institutions of the state for do bad, a crime. And the reason they are getting away with this kind of murder is a murder of the whole country. Because the current hardship, people they don't get money, they know self. If they're sick, they never get away for going to hospital. Now, them policies they have to cause that. So many people who are dying as a consequence of the economic hardship, of the social deprivation, and all of these problems will not result from bad economic policies. This atrocity can be blamed on the politicians in parliament who are responsible for making this law. So in the last time we talked about how they approved Kaifala Kalona without question. We talk about even how they passed the law in the parliament without quarrel. How even with the problems that they emerge, we talk about the development of economic policy to the extent that parliament even excused the violation of the Finance Act, for example, by Leadway, Babadi Kamara and the timber company. We'll go for a whole separate conversation, maybe the third part of this conversation. But today, I want to tell you no more say, when these two currencies will don't get in the country first, the parliament create them. Because I don't want to go back how Kalfala Kalon become a governor, because I don't talk about that sufficiently. I just want to extend for show parliamentary complicity in brief now. So I read again, that's how they do the newspapers, because it's not to I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up simply because I just want to talk about how Parliament passed the law. How they got to the point where they passed the law. So I read from the political newspaper. And I know the political newspaper, and one of the papers then I think it's tied to um, this is an article written by Sayo Mara, and I think it's published on the 21st. It was posted on the website on the 21st of December 2021 at 10:38 a.m. If I read from the newspaper, from the website of the paper. So Sayo Mara writes, a Sierra Leone redenomination bill becomes law. So he say the redenomination of the Leone's bill, which authorizes the deduction of 3 zeros from the Sierra Leone currency, was yesterday, 14th December, passed into law after 21 working days without objection, as stated by Parliament. So basically, the journalist report say the 14th December, now the bill when can go to Parliament becomes law. We allow the bank governor or the Minister of Finance, and by extension the bank governor, for pass the law on the 14th of December, pass the law, 21 days. So basically, then can go this law, so to speak, on the 17th Aukande, November. By 14th of December, Parliament say that bill will be count now for changing the currency or for bringing new currency, for reduce the, because a new currency really, because when you cut the zeros, you print new paper and a new currency, whether you call a new Leone, old Leone. Fact of the matter is a new paper money, different from the old one. And you end the lifespan of the old one, you count new one. So that law, they not for do that without passing, without parliamentary approval. Now the Minister of Finance, because the bank is basically, the central bank is under the Minister of Finance technically. So the Minister of Finance can go the bill in the Parliament for make the Parliament give the governor the right for print new money, for introduce new currency. When they can go the bill the document did for 21 days, no debate, no argument, it becomes law. So this is not the political reporter. I read again. The redenomination of the Leone's bill, which authorizes the deduction of 3 zeros from the Sierra Leone currency, was on the 14th of December passed into law after 21 days without objection. Underline the word without objection, as stated by Parliament. The Speaker of Parliament, Dr. Abbas Bundu, made the disclosure after a member of Parliament from the main opposition, All People's Congress, Abdul Kabo, representing constituency 077 Cambia, commented on the said bill. However, so Abdul Kabo, I already know, and the secretary of the illegal committee, which one of the parliamentary which Erikoko appoint after Fisher in ruling for Gideon the party, the secretary of that illegal committee, we two faction. So Abdul Kabo wait the 21 days don't pass. We know say the thing don't become law. Now when they can of parliament, object, this bill, so. Nadia Abbas Bundu say another member of parliament, Daniel Kuruma of constituency 046 in Koinadugu district, said the stated 21 days set for a bill to mature into law is not applicable to that circumstance because there has been a motion for it to be debated when Parliament instructed the bank governor to simplify for MPs to be well abreast with it and also educate the public about the redenomination of the Leones. So we'll go back to the parliamentary, I'll go back to the parliamentary Hansards, the parliamentary records, for see about the debate, which they call the votes and proceedings of Parliament, for see how this thing can. But basically, we don't know now, say, then pass the bill. We authorize the bank governor for carry out the printing of new currency, introduction of new currency, without debate. So on the day where the thing for become law, we don't become law. Now the opposition members of Parliament pretend, say, oh, we talk say this thing for debate. We'll be saying for educate the public, for do sensitization, and not do sensitization, it don't become law. Daniel Kuruma and Abdul Kabo. So basically, they came and did the same Nigerian movie theater show, pretend say they were against it. They not been talk about that before it become 14 days old. The day where you know say the time span, the time we allotted, then put a paper, an instrument in front of Parliament for 21 days. Nobody no object, nobody no self. It become law. Regardless of say them, we advise say make we debate. They not agree. No, it take 21 days. Now they don't pass law. But why did you not raise that objection publicly and raise the alarm now to the public until we don't know say the thing don't become law, the day when they become law. So, however, the leader of government business, Honorable Matthew Sanyuma, requested that MPs provide the motion of notice that was served to the office of the Clerk of Parliament in that regard. So he said that we don't talk so for that. He said, well, show me the evidence would have been served the speaker of the the Clerk of Parliament for soon we want this for me could debate and for so. Apart from the talk and talk no more, be served in the motion, but he could not produce it. So Abdul Kabo and this other producer. It therefore the speakers ruled that it should not be commented upon. So you see, the procedure was when we object to this, they will not submit a motion to the Clerk of Parliament for consideration by Parliament for say we need for debate this year and inspect the policy, inspect this bill and introduction of a new currency before ever when I pass the new currency. They're not doing. They wait till 21 days on pass and kind of hey, we'll be saying this one for debate, we'll be saying for do sensitization. We're not agree for do the sensitization. They say, but we will not provide evidence. Not sure by provide evidence, say the procedure. Procedure, in fact, this make lawyers that can go to law school. When not study law and Afro college, they don't get the LLB. They say go na the before they admit to the bar, you get to go to law school, you study. Basically, you are taught procedure, processes, how to approach the court, how to do. If you not file case properly, say no, you not approach the court in the proper manner. So basically, they agree, say that okay, this was sensitized. They don't introduce the bill for sensitized. They wait till the 21 days don't pass. No argument. They can now, we not for pass this one. And I say no, but where the motion would have been bring before the House for say for debate this before we say I don't wait till 21 days don't pass. So by law, Abbas Bundu then say, well, since we have not been do that, we'll not for comment on ourselves. The bank governor, Professor Kalon, announced to journalists in Freetown early this year about the denomination plans for the country's currency. So the journalists now they say, Kalfala Kalon, and it's not no secret, until they be no secret for come. He come before them, they're not debater, they know. So they go back to the parliamentary records for see exactly whether these MPs and be really want for debate this or not. And we don't get for no say at the 17th. Now in Parliament, I'm reading 5th Parliament of the Second Republic of Sierra Leone. This now volume 27, reference number OP. You get 5427. Anyway, the fact of the matter here is that this is dated Wednesday, 17th November 2021. I can go to the Parliament, Sierra Leone Parliament website. This day. So the House met at 10:30 a.m. The Abbas Bundu, as the speaker, was presiding, and in attendance, you had 100. On that day, you get 108 members of parliament, including Kande Yumkela and Cheri Koko, Cherno Ramadan Majuba as opposition leaders. They were present. According to the parliamentary record, they were present. In fact, here, if you check the attendance, the following honorable members of parliament were in attendance. You see, say his name, Honorable Ba Cherno RM, is listed as number 6th. I think they list the attendance by alphabetical order. So you find out, say, Honorable Yumkela Kande Kole, doctor of the NGC Cambia, is listed as the number 108. So they were in attendance on that day. So on that day, you get 38 members of parliament who were absent, who were not in attendance. They said the name and the day. This is from the parliamentary record. So on this day, then lay the papers laid by the Minister of Finance, laying of papers, the table clerk, Mr. Ishmael Akaba, called upon the Minister of Finance to lay the papers that were itemized on the order of paper. So papers laid by the minister included the Minister of Finance, Mr. Dennis Vandi, laid the following papers. 1, the Bank of Sierra Leone Act number 5 of 2019. The redenomination of the Leone Characteristics Regulations 2021 and statutory instrument number 14 of 2021. That then B, fiscal strategy statement for 2022 to 2024 in fulfillment of the requirements of Section 23 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016 and Section 40 of the Finance Act 2020. So this is waiting. So when I lay according to the parliamentary records here, when I lay the papers there, the leader of the opposition, Honorable Charno Aremba of Constituency 126, Western Area Urban, informed the House that the last change of currency in Sierra Leone was in 1964. Remember that that time they will just get independence, we moved from the British pound to the current Leone. He submitted that a direct engagement by the Minister of Finance together with his technical staff should be held with members of parliament so that members of parliament will become well informed and knowledgeable about the denomination of the Leone. And the honorable members in turn will be knowledgeable enough to cascade the relevant information to their various constituencies. So he demanded for the early presentation of the fiscal strategy statement to the House. He stated that the fiscal strategy should be debated by the House. So basically, that you expect. Say, okay, when I don't come with this bill and document it for say strategy of how we're going to implement the change to the new currency and all of that. But when I know say we'll not ever change a currency since we get independence after we change to the Leone. So we for debate and for educate members of parliament, they need for know what this mean and how it mean, and also for educate. So sensitization suppose another day, go count that kind of major policy, do for mass public education. In fact, before the minister or the bank for going under first, therefore don't do massive consultation across the country, get civil society, citizens' voices. They know whether the country really wants force for a new currency or not. But California Academy don't talk say they for hound the opposition. So they not even consult. That way then go the members of parliament. So the leader of government business, Matthew Newman, responded. What did he say? He tell Terry Coco talks to them for say assured the House that the fiscal strategy statement will be debated. He stated that Monday, 22nd November 2021 should be an appropriate day for the direct engagement with the Minister of Finance together with his technical staff and honorable members. So then agree say they go debate. So now make we see if debate be happen. And then say don't know say them for debate, not only for debate this law and evaluate, and for also make sure say the members of parliament say we're not sabi about economics, not sabi about what this mean, therefore don't tell them all, break down all the implication. So they will know whether this is good or not good right now for the country. They agree say 22nd November therefore do it. Now, when you check the parliamentary record, you go back, you will find out say the next time when they meet up now, they're not debating, basically. On the 19th of November, they meet up again, the same thing. You will check the attendance and see what we check. We find out say so on that day when they meet, in fact the leader of government business, now in talk say reminded the House that the leader of the opposition has moved a motion that the Minister of Finance and the bank governor should embark on massive sensitization and public education, on the instrument. So basically, they agree say therefore do the sensitization. But as you see, there was no such sensitization was done. He stated the importance of the sensitization process and urged the members to attend the meeting scheduled for the 21st November 2021 at 10 a.m., where the bank governor and officials from the Minister of Finance will educate members of parliament on the said documents. He ended by reminding the bank governor and his officials to make available the documents so that, it will be circulated. So the leader of the opposition also agreed, according to the parliamentary records, with the submission of the leader of government business, and added that he was expecting the documents to have reached them. So even the second time when they meet, they knock out with the documents, forgive each member the breakdown of how the NTR get for B, how they get for how the process get for continue, but they still continue the first reading of the bill, the Appropriation Act. So they don't bring to the important document first. We get for do with the change of currency. They may not say that for simplify the document. And the second time we they meet now for talk about may the minister present the appropriation bill, the budget for the next year. So they say, oh, we not talk say therefore bring this document for the change of the Leone. Although not bring them, if don't bring them by now, although not, but still then continue. In a serious parliament, this is where the parliamentary proceedings will have stopped. They never even talk about the first reading of the Appropriation Act of 2022 being an act to authorize expenditure from the Consolidated Fund for the Services of Sierra Leone for the fiscal year 2022 and for other related matters. They never allow the Minister of Finance for proceed with any other thing. If we don't tell them for do the last time, not been doing, but then just pretend, oh, we say cow this. Anyway, we hope say next time they will counter. And as soon as we will get for land, this thing was never debated. Parliament subsequently now, until the time when they meet up now, on the very December, where they go lay the thing, where they argue, say, we want for debate this thing. About we don't wait till it don't pass 21 days. We will not make out any other objection regarding the situation. So it did not become law because that the parliamentary proceedings say. So basically, Parliament pretended that they knew not only that debate should be done regarding the introduction of the new currency, they identified the need for debate, they identified the need for mass public education and scrutinizing the validity or the usefulness of such a decision and whether it's rational enough or it's productive enough to do that, it will be counterproductive to the economy or not. Without even members of parliament were not educated enough for know this. The public was not educated around the implication, the benefits or lack thereof of this kind of policy. They laid it in parliament, no debate, 21 days. They can, hey, we say the debate this and not debate that, so it became law. So now what I'm going to tell you, when you ask members of parliament, they will say, them bulldoze we. But within the same time when they come with this redenomination bill in front of them, that was the same time they brought the Appropriation Act. They debated and read and approved expenditure for 2022. Not only that, in June again, then decide for do a supplementary budget for add Panimadu that we don't approve for 2022. But when it came to the question of the currency, no debate and left the thing pass into law without debate, without argument. So they had the power for even trying the finance minister say, for now, simplify the act so that each member of parliament will get a simplified version, know whether this get the opportunity for understand the introduction of a new currency and know whether it's good for the economy or not, and also carry out massive education for people and know whether they want it or not. We no go debate the Appropriation Act until I do something we right. But they make we said debate. Well, anyway, next time we'll debate. When I put this aside, then debate the money business and approve the budget for the year and not debate the currency, which means they allow, because they don't say if a public debate take place regarding the real implication of introducing a new currency, new Leone. Therefore ask Father Carlo, are you honest enough? What you want to produce, where would the export, we go on a foreign exchange for boosting a currency, the value of a currency. You cannot talk about currency valuation in an economy that is not producing, that is not, with export is far, far, far lower than its import. With the import more, way, way, way more. In fact, the economy has been living on grants, donor dependent, massive borrowing from domestic and external borrowing. But people, the way they celebrate, where they say they don't get a loan from IMF and World Bank. Now they will talk about economic development, a donor-driven, dependent economy, massively dependent and debt-stricken economy. We are the debt burden, excessive debt overhang on the on the country. Now you talk about the introduction of new currency as a solution to the economic crisis. So Parliament basically allowed the bank governor and the Minister of Finance for introduce a new currency because they were hoping that this new currency will serve as a sanction against their opposition politicians who they want to fight in their own parties to get rid of, especially for the APC. And you see, Cherikoko is at the center of it. He has the forefront of it. He gets the numbers in Parliament. Him together with Kado, they know the implication of legislation. He's a lawyer. He knows the processes through which law for make it don't become Deputy Speaker of Parliament. All of the laws passed by the APC between 2007, 2008, right up to 2018, when they come on the eve of election, they even passed mining laws at Parliament without a state of emergency. Some they get even emergency certificate without debate. Now that same process that they introduced. And these are the people who want to tell us they were bulldozed. They were victimized by Abbas Bundu. No, they were not committed. If they were really committed, the whole Massive press conference. When we find out, say that they want pass the Public Elections Act. When that's what we don't make the Public Elections Act pass the Parliament back. Yeah, we're not for no. That's what we expose them. Even we expose them and still left the dangerous provisions in the law. They still allow NCRA for make sure say they suppress people from registering. You know, see? Even we can't recommendation for the extension of registration, and no say the young supporters in Freetown, McKinney, Local, and other places there, that did not northwest and western area, still not register. Now 2 days they say they for do. Which guarantee do they have that these 2 days will be able to capture all of the thousands, hundreds of thousands of people where they left behind? And these people, they tell their supporters, when I ask Africans, they give you evidence, say we don't sell out. What have you done? What did you do in this case to prevent the introduction of a new currency we don't destroy the economy? And now you want to blame it on the bank governor or Madabi alone? It's impossible. Don't be dishonesty too much. It's too much. So now we have a situation where the country has two currencies, an old Leone and a new Leone. And the currency done lost in value almost by 100% now, in the real sense of the word. An economy, they don't ruin not just the credibility of the country for borrow, but also they cannot answer to the simple question of how this monetary policy don't address inflation, don't address the valuation of the currency. We talk about the processes of currency, balance of trade. When you close the balance of trade deficit, that is mostly the major pathway to currency valuation, not of the printing of paper. Even at the time when they pass them policy, in the next conversation, I'm going to talk about how much money we've spent in printing of currency, including even the time when they pass this. We get the evidence of boxes of 10,000 Leone's notes printed and flown into the country by air charter from Thomas de la Rue for Cowton and Saloon, simply because, even when we talk about new currency, they print old currency. How can an economy thrive on two currencies? Now you defect for address the value of the currency, then you get two paper money, two set of currency running concurrently. And we are saying that when you introduce the currency, we go for, so maybe you go think about for printing a new currency, maybe three. Because the paper that you've printed is becoming as worthless as a tissue paper. So this is not the result. I don't talk about how Kalifala Kalon become a governor and all of that. I just wanted to add this into the mix for telling us, even the law to introduce a new currency was passed through Parliament without a debate, without objection by the members of Parliament. And it was not objected to because Cherry Coco and the other opposition candidates, they're not be able for Stop Abbas Bunda for pass. No, they allowed the instrument to be in Parliament for 21 days, stay mature into law without objection. On the day we don't mature, say 10 don't pass, and then they can, we'll be saying, well, debate this or not be debater. But you debated the Appropriation Act. Why would I not be telling the Minister of Finance and the bank governor, so we cannot approve the Appropriation Act of the budgetary estimates for 2022 without we not address the question. We not address the question of the Leone. Make us have to see yourself now. Make us take a break and see what is beeping around me. Yes, thank you very much. So Adam, last week we don't talk about the same way Kalfala Kalon tell we, Sierra Leoneans, tell a newspaper, the Global Times, say the reason what make the Leone be the loss in value now because of corruption, because of the hoarding of the currency by opposition politicians in the previous government. Mainly, he go as far as citing the example of Kemosise, where say they take bundle and bundle of money, then they say, I don't give 5 million, 10 million. So it's an example show you say the opposition basically, all the APC politicians who have been in power, especially the one where they're accused of corruption, they keep money inside their house. So then for force them for bring the money out. The first thing we do is introduce various sets of policies, auction it throw away money at the commercial banks, auction the forex reserve of the central bank to the commercial banks. Commercial banks then take what he did not realize at the time was that the informal currency market was or is still controlled by the commercial banks. And to some large extent, the even officials of the central bank. They take the forex, then gear to then exchange people in a Savo Street, Back Street, that central area from PZ roundabout to Eastern Police. We check around there. Some time ago, we did a survey of 20 of the leading currency dealers. These are the top guys that wait inside the shop there. Then get the Ghana must go bag there. We check the Ghana must go bag. You find out, say, in a social dollar, they see dollars, quantity of dollars you will not even find on the streets of America, like sea and cash. Some time ago, when we will do this investigation, we'll look at the proliferation of foreign currencies on the streets of Freetown and looking at that small zone, that small enclave there between between PZ roundabout, that PZ area there, to Eastern Police. And the street level we cover as Savo Street, that small Equa Street, and then 3 street them, Abacha Street, the street that we cross between the, I don't come off it now, I don't remember. But I already know what they talk about. From Abacha Street, they go down now, Eastern Police, then can go to the street, that small square place there. We will do the survey, we see the amount of money where they, now the street no more, dollar, euro. We are shocked to say, yeah, saloon. They spend dollar na saloon na pass from America. You will find in one shop alone like 3-4 big Ghana must go back. So dollar in the inside. Then the Leone they so they take those dollars from the central banks. Then give the young bobo in the street. So you see, you have these guys standing on the streets who are controlled by these, like the equivalent of some kind of a cartel kind of operation network. So the informal currency market crowd out the banks. So we go to the commercial bank, they tell you the dollar now 7,000 leones, for example, for $1, or 10,000 leones for $1. But then when you go to the street, now 12,000 leones. So, but when you want to buy dollar to the commercial bank, although the exchange rate at the commercial bank lower, the buying and selling rate lower, but it's not available in the banks. Why? Because the bank, they don't take the dollar, they don't give it to their own retail outlets. The commercial bank man, the big man at the commercial banks, then give the money to the people who they change. This man the way hide inside the bureau there, or the clandestine shop there. Then them man in the bank, they take the money from the, if they receive $100,000, they get this, they give this 10,000 and the 5,000 and the 2,000, depending on how they at the ranks. So then they sell them. So if they don't give them for 10,000, then sell them for 13,000. So they give them for 12,500, and they get 500 for every money with them buy or change. So which means the 3,000 margin with it between the banking exchange rate and the street exchange rate, that the money that the way the bank money they sell, they share. So if that 3,000, that the difference between the official exchange rate and the street exchange rate, the man will control the Ghana must go, but we hold that big Ghana must go inside the shop, they get 1,000. The bank director or whosoever in the bank will control the forex we sell on the street, they get other 1,000. Then other 1,000 with on top, and then other man in the street they share. It's a cartel. So that's what we discovered. But not to that be shocked, we mostly that the fact that the proliferation, the amount of currency where they out at the street in terms of the forex. And it is the banks that keep the clandestine currency market afloat. Not the money where they come outside from Guinea or Liberia, they carry inside Sierra Leone. Now the money they come out at the central bank, go to the commercial banks, then they end up in the streets of Freetown, and then eventually Wakagoma, Kenny, Bo, Kenema, like that. So you come to find out that the more you travel, where you go, Kono, the exchange rate can higher than the rate in Freetown. So like because now so the currency then becomes a commodity in this sense because it is if you go to the central bank, you go buy currency, easy one as an individual businessman, you get access to them. The street will be crowded out. So Carfala Caron, before you try out this network where they allow the offloading of the currency from the banks to the street, what you decide for do now for instead auction more money into the street, hoping that this more money they blame say that people that hold Leone they want for exchange, so we don't give them more opportunity. If his theory was actually working, he gave the supposed people currency holders the opportunity for change more of the currency. But what Carfala Kalon did not tell the people of Sierra Leone was the amount of cash that was being taken out of the central bank by Mada Bio, the Fatima Bio, and the other officials in the government, the chief minister. For example, we report if I go back to the African Express report, now you see these massive cash withdrawals. What did they begin say? Both the opposition politicians within a parliament where they encourage this weaponization of the currency market, and the ruling party supporters begin say, but African Express cash withdrawal not to corruption. It is corruption because money, there are laws that govern withdrawals, transactions, cash transactions, especially public finance withdrawals. The laws and the public finance laws, the fiscal policies, the fiscal regulations, then show how much money you will withdraw from a particular check, individual check, how you do gross transfers, how much money goes into wire transfers and all of that, bank to bank payments, bank to corporate payments. These are all regulated. The financial market, locally and internationally, is commonly regulated. This is why when you wire money from Freetown, it has to pass through the kind of make phone call. It goes through channels and land before you land at a final destination. It has to be processed by intermediary banks before you end up at a final end point. This is because it's regulated. You don't just withdraw cash. If you're done anything, the banks will not even impose moratoriums on how people they access their own money or how they will deposit how much money for deposit, how much money they travel with when I used to get you money. Because the whole world financial regulation is both local and international. International law and second and state law, national laws and international laws regulate financial operations. Uniform. So for make public officials begin to tell you say they are not alarmed by a report that shows over 5 billion leones withdrawn cash from the Bank of Sierra Leone in December alone by the president and his officials in the name of travel. Right now, Madabi is traveling across the country, especially in the south and the east, to campaign. He's campaigning. And we have no problem with his campaigning, but ask yourself how much money has been withdrawn from the central bank, from government accounts, not from SLPP account. Madabi is going to the southeast, not just as a president, but as a flag bearer of the SLPP, as a candidate of the SLPP in 2023. And right now he's out in the south and east, his major party strongholds, campaigning, propagating his own policies and message so that he will be voted for a second time. The money that is being used by him and the officials who are accompanying him are coming directly from the central bank, from the local and overseas travel account of the president. And he's not working there. While he's president, he's carrying out political activities in the interest of his party. Basically, you don't begin campaign ahead of time and using public resources campaigning. Dual violation. What has the opposition done? The opposition instead, they say that they arrest themselves. The bar association that should be concerned about the violation of electoral laws is not concerned about it. Your lawyers are not concerned about this. The bar association or the lawyers and then get the opportunity for to go electoral commission a court for the violation of citizens' right, the constitutional right of citizens for vote. They not do it. The Institute of Governance Reform, all these organizations that way they all of a sudden have become concerned about the arrest of a lawyer, are not concerned about the constitutional violations against millions of Sierra Leoneans who are being deprived of the right to democratic right, the constitutional right for vote, for participating in the electoral process. They will have taken the Electoral Commission to court to call for the proper registration and easy participation of citizens of Sierra Leone in the democratic electoral process. They've not done that. They've not even spoken about it. They're not concerned about it. They're not a tweet about ourselves. Instead, they advocated and they helped propagate a message that deals with what? Voter registration apathy in the South and the East. That is what they reported. That's the narrative they want to promote. That is what the civil society that is in bed with the regime is trying to promote. But they are concerned about the supposed violation, which we have to investigate if it's true, the supposed detention of one lawyer. But they are not concerned about the violation, how parliamentarians who are their own opposition colleagues, the opposition lawyer then say they're vexed because they think say one of them come in and don't arrest them. We got to investigate first the circumstance of the arrest and the circumstance of the so-called detention. But that is not the issue for me. The issue for me is they are concerned about one Sierra Leonean, but they're not concerned about thousands of other Sierra Leoneans whose constitutional right to vote has been trampled upon by the Electoral Commission. They're not concerned about over $10 million of public funds that have been stolen out of the Bank of Sierra Leone by the Electoral Commission that cannot be accounted for, which has also prevented people, the provision of the required technology for people to participate in the election. Are they really serious? Are they really thinking that the world is not recognizing the difference? This is not to say that somebody, we're still investigating all of these arrests, all of these reported arrests and coming from opposition politicians and in connivance with the regime and all of these things. These are, another set of conversation. But the fact of the matter is, when we talk about constitutional violations, human rights violations, we talk about this, we have a situation where the Constitution gives citizens the right, citizens who are qualified to vote, the right to be registered. The Electoral Commission has the compulsory mandate to register each and every Sierra Leonean. Here we have hundreds of examples of a national institution preventing citizens from enjoying their constitutional right to decide who should represent them and how they should be represented. And you have dozens of lawyers who are upset by the supposed or alleged violation of the right of their colleague, but they are not upset by the alleged, by the known obvious violation of the constitutional right of citizens to vote. They had the opportunity to take the Electoral Commission to court. They refused. Are these people really honest? When I ask them, when I they tweet about, when are the lawyers we don't tweet, we don't complain about the arrest of a colleague? Why did you not take the Electoral Commission to court? We don't even need for pay money for do that because you have, the proper ways to do it. You have the evidence, overwhelming evidence. In fact, some of we don't get for understanding. When I even refuse for take up the case for carry the Electoral Commission to court because why? It does not serve your political interest. And now you want to claim that you are victims of a dictatorial regime? Well, hypocrisy is too much. This is what we talk about. Your nakedness is so open to the public. So this is the situation. The same way we have a situation where parliamentarians allow the bank governor and the Minister of Finance to pass a law without a debate. We don't crash the economy. Now they want to claim the bank governor is the one that's responsible. You see why make we thunder the fire, get fire them first before we reach to the bank governor. Now they force the fire before we reach to them. The hypocrisy is too much. So we have spent 2 hours in this conversation, but now you already know there is no way we can talk about the collapse of the national currency, the crisis in the economy, the failure of the fiscal policies of this regime without, first and foremost, holding Parliament responsible, holding the opposition leaders in parliament responsible, without holding Cherno Ramadan Majubaf, the leader of the APC in parliament, and Kande Yumkaila of the NGC responsible for this economic crisis. This is very annoying for some of you, the supporters of these politicians, but that is just a fact. It is a fact. To pretend not to understand this is the greatest deceitful hypocrisy that you will be doing to yourself. And to be honest with you, we really do not care how you feel, as long as what we stand on is the truth. Show me the evidence that these people were opposed to the introduction of a legislation, financial legislation, that they know is going to destroy the economy, or that has led to this economy. Show me how you want to excuse these well-experienced politicians, educated politicians, who should know, and you know what say with the excuse of ignorance, they are not ignorant, they know what they do, and they did it deliberately. They were hoping that their vendetta was going to produce something good for them. Or maybe they have found value in it, but in the end, who has suffered? You get hundreds and thousands, millions of Sierra Leoneans who are bearing the consequences of these dishonest decisions, dishonest policies, the weaponization of the banks and the financial market in itself is the greatest crime a group of politicians can commit against their own people. It is genocidal. All of the people who have died as a consequence of the hardship, of the resulting impact of these economic policies, that in those indexes of death is the responsibility of you, the parliamentarians. You had the power, you had the opportunity and the privilege to stop this. You failed to stop it. You condoned it. You accelerated it. You participated in it. I have always wondered whether when I sleep at night, to be honest with you guys, I keep wondering how you really go to bed and sleep. Because if when I think about the atrocities that have resulted from some of these actions and activities, even Satan self and I will look when I'm afraid. That is the reality. You don't want to hear this. So, but our duty here is to tell the people, when I therefore understand the proper understanding of things is the only way we are going to resolve our situation. And no support something we bad day, no matter how you like person day, or you support person day, no allow me the person put poison in your throat. You know, say poison, but take soda, so raw soda, put it inside you mouth, say because I like you, I will drink soda for you. I mean, that in itself is not love. It's not support, it's self-destruction. And that is what some of you, the supporters of these politicians, are doing to yourself. You know, and you actually know, you know that these people are not serving your interest. They're being dishonest to you. But say, how for do now party? No more. If you care about your political party, you care about really your political party, you should be able to shame the leaders who are destroying the image of your political party. And these kind of things, they just rob the individuals in these parties their own reputation or their name, but it destroys even your own organization. Tomorrow, if you pick one for BAPC or any other political party leader, that they will inherit this history of ugly lawmaking. You will inherit that. And nobody now want to carry the burden of another person's dishonesty. You don't really want to do that. So I want for stop Naya. I have been on the road for the last couple of days. I intend to be for the next couple of days. I've decided now, for those of you who have followed me for the years now, when I know say I used to write books. Part of the reason why I write books and publish, not just because I want me and teach me books in a classroom, because my books are an extension of what we call my activism and my journalism. Now, way for reach more wider audiences. And why I did start this when I will tell you, I say, I have been enjoying and amused by the supposed anxiety of the ruling party politicians and their friends in the opposition, largely found in parliament, and their supporters who have been arguing about my supposed or my my potential, the effort I don't begin making have to go out and begin meet with organizations and individuals who are tied to Sierra Leone and begin to encourage them that please, when you engage with the politicians in Sierra Leone, make it as a condition of your engagement the respect for minimum standards of good governance and accountability. That even though some of these politicians do not care about the country, you who are friends of our country, who are friends of the people of Sierra Leone, who care about the people of Sierra Leone, make it as a point of your interaction in a relationship. Use that as an opportunity to remind and impress upon these politicians who are representing, who are in charge of running the show in Sierra Leone, for them to respect minimum standards of good governance, the rule of law, and also not to criminalize citizens who are speaking out about their aspiration for a good society, their desire to have things done rightly in the country. That is what we want. We just want things to go right. So we will still continue. I will repeat here again. I will continue to urge each and every Sierra Leonean who has a connection, who has some kind of influence or a friend in any part of the world that is engaged in Sierra Leone to appeal to your friend to help us impress upon the people in Sierra Leone who are in charge of running the show that they have to respect minimum standards of good governance to make it that part of their engagement. So that is what I have embarked upon, and my travels beginning from last week up to next week now will be about that, and I intend to begin my own international waka now for waka around. I'm hoping that by early next year I will don't get my new book out, and that will give me the instrument and the opportunity now for begin travel on various speaking tours for talk about the situation at Salona so near the elections and Haiti. So I call on each and every Sierra Leonean who has that platform, that opportunity to speak out, to speak up peacefully. You don't need to slap anybody. You don't need for insult anybody. The world will hear you when you communicate your aspiration and your desires in a more peaceful way, in a more civilized. We are all, yes, we as human beings, we can be angry because we are disappointed with what is happening in our country. But we can express that frustration, that anger, that disappointment in a democratic way, in a peaceful way. We can write letters about it. We can write our opinions out. We can also talk about them without necessarily insulting other people into accepting what we are saying or forcing other people. But we can arrive at a reasonable judgment in terms of what is right and what is wrong. And that is what I want us to do. So I encourage you to do that one day. And I want to thank you all for listening. We're going to make this opportunity, this conversation available. And I hope to hold a midweek conversation for you, an update of my travels and my ongoing international engagement. So thank you very much for the time. And I look forward to our next conversation next week. I will say goodbye, and I want to salute then and now and thank Mr. Prince Kroma for the opportunity for providing with this platform and keep moving forward. Regardless of the effort of the politicians in Sierra Leone and their colleagues, their friends for marginalized and silenced voices, we found an alliance and a willingness and support from then and now, and we will ever remain grateful for this opportunity for participate here and use this platform for talk to at least, regardless of the size of the population, we believe our message is getting across and it's being heard. We just get to continue. As I keep saying, the truth does not require a crowd to be told. It just requires a committed men and women, no matter how few they are, to tell that truth and to be resilient, to repeat that truth over and over. It's going to be hard. The truth gets power on its own. It stands on its own. It does not require support. If it don't turn up on you, nothing is going to get it away. Truth only requires truth as a companion, to march along. So we are on the right path. We are on the right place. We have to be satisfied with the fact that we don't commit ourselves for speak truth to power, and let's continue to do that. Thank you very much. Until next week. This is the Frontline show, and I've been your I would say host of the conversation. We still try to make this conversation more participatory as we go along. We go bring in. Now we don't begin get the broadcast table on Facebook and YouTube. So we hope that we'll open up the phone lines in the future and get the message across. Once again, see you next Saturday, and thank you very much.